Welcome to the Painful Lessons Podcast with your hosts, Tyler Ramsey and Ben Goldhirsch.
Painful lessons. They've learned them.
So you don't have to.
Yeah. That's our opening. What do you think, Blake? Pretty good, right?
Yeah, Ben, good delivery.
It was a little off, but we're getting better. We're getting better and better. Oh, and then we have a little jingle at the beginning too. We have a producer. His name's Aaron. He's also on this.
Yeah. Hey, Aaron.
Hey, by the way, how great does this look? Pretty cool, right?
Yeah, I love it.
Awesome. Blake, you're someone that has never experienced a painful lesson, which it doesn't make any sense why we even have you on the show, quite frankly. It's just
I feel like every day of my life is a painful lesson.
Never experienced a single painful lesson. And at one point you had a company, Tom's, and you were really successful with it. And then you realized that money does in fact buy happiness permanent happiness. And so there's no real lesson that you can pass on to us. That's so unfortunate.
Oh, Tyler, where do you want to start?
Man, first of all, this is something I'm really excited about. Like anytime that I read, kind of like a real profound piece of advice or see like something that comes out about happiness and it's something that I already do, I get so excited. And I'll give you an example. I recently saw someone, I think his name is Chris Willix or something. Anyway, he said that one of the number one indicators for how long someone will live is how many friends they have, like how big their friend group is, and like how important and how like what type of friendship thing that they have around them. And you, Blake, are responsible for since I've known you, you've been passionate about cultivating a really terrific friend group. That's how I know Ben. And what a huge part of my life Ben is. And some of my greatest friends and most exciting experiences have been because you realized early on that creating a friend group was paramount to having a good life. Why'd you think of that?
Yeah, I mean, I can pass along, I guess, a painful lesson that my dad had because I don't know, maybe 15 years ago, I read an article in Esquire magazine, and it was talking about, different things to not put off in your life. And one of the things was don't wait till your parents are, old and grandparents before you ask them for really good advice. And so I decided to go home that Thanksgiving and interview my dad. And I asked him all these questions about his life, his upbringing, a lot of advice. And then I said at the very end of the interview, I said, Dad, do you have any regrets? And he kind of paused for a second and he said, I do have a regret. And I was like, oh gosh, what is this? Hopefully it's not having kids or something. And he said, I had all these great guy friends in high school and college and residency. And then I became a doctor and I got married and we had you and your sister and your brother. And my whole life has really been about my family and my work. And I didn't make time for really cultivating or maintaining some of those great male friendships I had. And now I'm almost, to retirement age. And I look around and I don't have a group of guys that I have, the ability to go on a golf trip with or do things with. And I wish I had more close male friends. And at that time, this is back in 2009, I think, I was early days in Tom's. I had a group of really great friends in Los Angeles and a few living in other places. And I decided I don't want to have that same regret when I'm, 60 years old. And so I sent an email to you I don't think Ben was Ben, were you on the first trip?
I was on the email, but I didn't come.
Okay. So Ben was on the email, but he didn't come on the first trip.
But it was I was Colorado.
It was in Colorado. Yeah.
I also missed the first trip because there was a period of time where I was a big enough alcoholic, I think, to be a liability, I think. Yeah. and then got through that phase. What a painful lesson. And, but okay, sorry, continue.
So sent this email to like, I think 8 or 9 guys. I guess 6 or 7 showed up, and we just had a little trip in Colorado where we went fly fishing and played poker and probably drank a bunch of beers, and that was that. And then we had such a good time that we decided to do it the next year, and I think we might have gone to Costa Rica the next year, and then we went to Oktoberfest in Germany and went to Austin for a UT football game and poker tournament. And we just did these things, and we've done it now, I think, for 16 years. And yeah, it's been one of the greatest joys of my life having this group of guys together. And we've had more guys join over the years. I think we have 14 in the group now. And our next trip is in June, in which I think we'll get to celebrate Ben's birthday.
Ben, your birthday's in June?
Oh, fuck off, Tyler. So my birthday's in June.
Ben, you might want to speak in the microphone. I can't hear you.
I think you got your AirPods on under there.
I
Yeah.
put this on 'cause it's
Are
loud in the
you
house.
an idiot? I am.
Hey.
What
Hey,
a
it was too
rookie!
loud.
Oh my word. Okay.
I didn't want you guys to pick up my kids yelling in the background. The question I had, when did you, like in the beginning of that friend group, Tom's wasn't yet a huge success. Like Tom's had just gotten started.
Not at all.
And at some point it's like, oh, like of course it makes sense that you're doing this stuff. You've reached a certain altitude of success. What was it like to make that commitment early on, and how did that feel relative to the sort of entrepreneurial currents that were kind of championing more of a like focus on kind of business outcomes with all of your energy?
I think that, we call the group the Rugged Adventure Club, and or the Rack. And I think that just like when I started Tom's, I thought it was just this, small project that would be really fun and creative and get to go to Argentina every year and give kids shoes and feel good about that. Never really envisioned it into the brand or the business it became. It's the same with the Rack. Like it was just this like, hey, let's get together once a year and go fly fishing or go on some type of adventure, and really low commitment and low expectation. And over the years turned into this amazing thing where we do, pretty exotic trips all around the world.
I
Go
just
ahead.
like want to call out, like it was a very distinct difference. Like we met at conferences, like me and Blake.
Yeah.
And I
That's
feel
right.
like we were in a world of like celebrating the hustle above all else. And I remember that invite. I'm like, this motherfucker like wants to duck out to Colorado during this time. Like my project isn't successful enough to create that space. And I really admired two things. One was like you having the insight early on about the value of friendship and balancing life. And then like the generosity to bring people along. Like was just a foreign concept to me. It was a weird foreign concept. And I'm embarrassed that it was so foreign, but it was really meaningful. And yeah, do you think you picked that from your dad, or do you think you just pulled that, kind of just came up with it?
Yeah, I don't know if this is a painful lesson, but I think it was a good practice that I had back then. And this is even before the Rugged Adventure Club, because this is, one of the reasons Tom's even existed is, I started my first company when I was 18 years old. And from that moment on, I was working, 60, 70, 80 hours a week.
What company was it?
The laundry business, Easy Laundry.
Okay. Easy
Yeah.
Laundry. All right. Easy Laundry.
And-
What was the next company?
Now I have a great painful lesson with Easy Laundry that goes towards business I can share next. I pretty much have painful lessons from every business. I can talk about painful lesson with the reality cable channel too. So wherever you want to go. But I was working so much and I didn't have time for vacation, but I had this adventurous spirit. And so what I decided I would do, and this has actually led to Tom's, is every January, I would start the year by taking pretty much the whole month off, no matter what was going on in the business. And this January, I went to Argentina to learn to play polo. And that's where I met Alejo, my partner in Tom's. And that's where I saw the original Tom shoes on the gauchos on the polo fields, or the grooms. And that's where I also met some people doing nonprofit work that were helping kids get shoes. And all three of those things led to the idea of a shoe company where every time you sell a pair, you'd give a pair away. And so I was already taking this idea that you work really hard and then you play really hard for short bursts of time to regenerate and revive and refresh. And so taking a long weekend or a week to go with my best friend somewhere was not foreign at all to me.
I'm so excited it worked out that way, but I'm just going to share a painful lesson that I have. One time I was wrestling with Ben, and he ripped my necklace off, and he's never apologized for it. And it was also a real chump move what was happening, because I was like, hey, we're good. And then I was like, I don't want to fall in the grass because I'll be itchy. And do you know what he did? He took that moment of, I was like, I think I was put my hands up in a way that wrestlers know. I'm just being vulnerable for a second because I don't really want to fall in the grass. And do you know what he did? He used that moment against me. And so if we're going to be talking about friends, I have a friend, Ben, and I learned that about him, that he did that, and he broke my necklace at the time. So I'm glad that we're talking about painful lessons, because I learned one from Ben. It was ridiculous.
All right. That is, I remember that. And not differently. I remember that way. I remember that opening I saw. I remember that opening.
When I said chump move, that's why you remember it. You're like, oh yeah, I remember it. You, by saying chump move, it's bringing me back to that move. Yeah.
I remember fighting you on the beach in front of Nobu, in front of all those tourists. And I remember that fight. All right, back to painful lessons. You were on the way to winning the Amazing Race. And what happened?
So after 30 days of racing around the world,
context. Wait, real quick. He's got to say a context before you ask him a question. Blake was on the Amazing Race with his sister and got second place. And
before Tom's, before any like giant successes.
Yes. Yeah, but Ben, you can't just go Amazing Race, and you have to create a context for it. Listen,
you're good at this.
Also a painful lesson about working with Ben. Blake, you're going to see all kinds of painful lessons about working with Ben, who broke my necklace. Okay, sorry.
So back to the Amazing Race. So my sister and I were on the show, second season. We raced around the world for 30 days. We were in the final 3 teams, and we landed in San Francisco. I had never been to San Francisco at that time, and I didn't really know much about the city. But I knew we were in a very tight race, and there was not much time to waste. So we ended up in the middle of the city, and our next clue was an important one. It was to find Pier 31 and to go to the end of Pier 31 to get the next clue. And my sister really wanted to stop and go find a place to buy a map. There was no, cell phones, Google Maps, or any of that back then. And so my sister was like, we got to go find a map so we can find Pier 31. I said, Paige, piers are on the water, and I can see the water right now. So rather than waste the time and go get a map, let's just run to the water, and then we can ask someone there where Pier 31 is. But the problem is all the water is kind of a semicircle on the Bay of San Francisco. And depending on where you hit that semicircle, you could have a long walk/run to the Pier 31. And so we ran all the way to the water, the wrong direction. We got there. They told us where Pier 31 was, but it was basically 2 miles down the street. And therefore we had to run that. And so we wasted a tremendous amount of time and ultimately ended up losing the Amazing Race by 4 minutes. And it was a very, very painful lesson to lose $1 million on national television just because I didn't want to stop and take the time to look for a map.
I love that story.
And now poor Paige ended up starting a $1 billion company and runs and owns Aviator Nation. And oh my gosh, boy, that painful lesson worked out great for her and great for you. That's true.
I mean, it is amazing that you guys took that loss and gave 0 fucks about it in terms of like the overall story.
Well, we gave a lot of fucks about it back then.
Oh, I can imagine.
What was that like between you guys?
There's some tension.
I'm aware of something that she for a long time would send you a number and it was like 5-6 something. It was like this long number and wouldn't explain what the number was, and she would send another number. But what they were quantities that you didn't win that were growing every day with
The interest.
yeah, which I think is a real stick it. I have a question. So recently there was an article about you, and because you made a pledge where you're going to over time commit like $100 million to the field of psychedelics and what that can do to help people and everything. And so I'm curious, does it ever feel like a painful lesson where you're like, hey, if you decide to do this, like think of a big number and then think of half of that or something like that? Do you ever go, also maybe if you're hanging out with people that do psychedelics and then you're taking psychedelics, maybe give it a couple of days before you go, I've decided to donate this much money. Like, is there anything, are there any painful lessons around making this epiphany decision of I'm going to contribute $100 million to this field? And what is this field? Everything.
I mean, I don't have any regrets for supporting the psychedelic space because I have so much conviction that over time it's going to have such a huge impact on our collective mental health and our consciousness. I do think sometimes I get really excited about things and jump into them. I've done that my whole life. My dad says about me, he says, often wrong, but never in doubt.
Great phrase. Great phrase.
So yeah, I mean, I think, would I land it at 100 million if I took more time to think about it? I don't know. Maybe I would have, but you know, I've been really blessed, and if that can help with research and science to help, you know, the so many millions of people that are suffering from PTSD or depression or, you know, drug addiction, then I think it's a good use of philanthropy.
How is that? What type of progress do you see being made? Like now, like, is there any progress that has been made recently that has you very excited?
Yeah, I mean, last year we won a huge ballot initiative in the state of Colorado, legalizing 4 different psychedelics for therapeutic use. I think that's a landmark event. We're also working on a campaign in California right now that I think is very promising, getting huge support in the legislature. And there's just been more and more research coming out showing the power of psychedelics for some of these issues. I mean, Kentucky just put aside $40 million from the government to help with the opioid crisis and giving people Ibogaine. So government's starting to look at this and see that we have real challenges. And yet there's some solutions that we've never looked at. And these, quote, drugs should be treated more like the medicine that they are. And I think that's really promising.
So we've been friends long enough. You've seen me in and out of rehabs, and I now have 3 years of sobriety. And and there's a couple of experiences that you entered. One is this ayahuasca experience that I had that I think led to a series of other things that really helped me get really comfortable with becoming totally sober. And I will, you know, forever be grateful for this particular experience. And I think it's awesome. I love that. Like, let's say we just ended this podcast right now and they're like, all right, so, and someone watched, they're like, so what are the things that like Blake thinks are good? It's like drugs and go on a lot of trips with your buddies. Like, fuck yeah, that is the best advice I can get. Those are like, take it home pieces of advice. Shut it off. I feel like it's really counterintuitive, but like, I think that the other things that I think there's another thing that you introduced me to, which was the Hoffman Institute. And that helped me dislodge this kind of fear that I was going to eventually kill myself. There's kind of like this, which was a pattern in my family. And so I will forever be grateful for that. And then the third thing is like, I feel like I couldn't have really committed to recovery if it wasn't for really kind of jumping in really hardcore with a relationship with God. And I think those 3 things were really part of it. But it's interesting that you were part of 2 of it. You have got so many of us excited about the Hoffman process or the Hoffman Institute. What did that do? What was the thing that you figured out at that place?
I mean, the great thing about Hoffman is you really look at the patterns that have shaped your life, both positive and negative. And, one of the things, and this is, kind of embarrassing to admit, but I don't mind, is that I had this pattern where I really felt like I needed to be the center of attention. I was the center of attention a lot in my family growing up. I was successful as an entrepreneur and in athletics and different things, and I got used to that and felt really comfortable when I was, but not comfortable when I wasn't. And so since then, I've been really I broke that pattern and through Hoffman, and now I'm comfortable. I'm actually more comfortable sometimes not being the center of attention, and it's led to a lot of healthier relationships, healthier social situations, and just a lot more peace because there's not the pressure to be always performing.
Strong. Ben, what'd you realize at Hoffman?
I don't want to. I want to talk about other stuff.
Why? This is a great topic.
It's a great topic. But I'm super. Did you graduate from college, Blake, or did you drop out?
I dropped out.
Did Paige graduate?
No, she dropped out.
It's unique to have two super successful entrepreneurs in one family. In a kid,
Correct.
In some ways, it's more common in athletics. We're like, oh, Peyton's dope at football. Eli's going to be dope at football. There's a very easy sort of understanding. But entrepreneurship feels more like, who fucking knows? You have to have the idea. You have to have all the hustle. You have to what do you think was common? Is there anything common between you and Paige, or common in where you grew up? And by the way, Tyler's the best athlete in the family. And, so full Tyler.
Tyler, your brother.
Yeah. Obviously not Tyler Ramsey. Kind of a solid athlete, kind of a fit in somewhere. But anything common between you guys that you noticed that you're like, oh, that makes sense that this happened this way?
I mean, I think our parents really helped us really believe in ourselves, gave us a lot of personal confidence. They were always supportive of any of our ideas. We saw my mom was a successful entrepreneur herself in writing cookbooks. So we got that kind of as a role model to, if you have an idea, take a chance, follow it, see what happens.
She wrote those cookbooks,
Butterbusters.
Yeah.
Butterbusters.
And then also I think we just both were really competitive. I think we get that from our dad. He's very competitive, mainly in golf, but also in his work and building hospitals and being a doctor. And so I think
he get kicked out of a volleyball game one time of Paige's?
Oh, my dad?
Yeah.
I maybe. I don't know. I think so.
He did. He was yelling too loud and he got kicked out of a game. I like that story. I know a lot.
Okay.
Do you think that Ben learned in Hoffman, instead of these awesome things, use Apple AirBuds? Is that why you're not discussing the lesson that you learned?
I loved Hoffman. I just tried to send someone on Hoffman yesterday, where I was like, hey, this experience was really meaningful to me. To actually take the time to explore these givens that you take from childhood and think about what you want to bring forward. And I think the thing that we did with the funeral, I don't know how much we're supposed to talk about it, but we're probably not. Okay. But that was so valuable. So it was a transitional moment or an inflection point in my life. And, similar to Tyler, a debt for a lot of the stuff, which is kind of fun to have amongst friends, meaningful stuff. How
your arms look really big when they're crossed, by the way.
I'll get them back crossed then. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, that's the move.
You saw those on the Nobu beach around your fucking throat. Tell me, how are you living? You're living back in California. How's it going now? How do you like it back there?
Not so great.
Not so great. It's not easy. What's it like having sold a company and not having a thing that's oh, I get to bang on this each day?
It's hard. It's really hard. you know, I think that so much of our life revolves around having a purpose, or mine has, and with Tom's, I had that in spades because we were building a great company. We were helping millions of people. We were changing the way that people thought about business. And I think I really took that for granted about how great that was for my mental health and for my sense of identity. And then after I sold Tom's, I went and basically made up for lost time with all the adventure sports and activities I could do. Learned to be a great surfer, snowboarded all the time, learned to rock climb, learned to race cars. I mean, I did a lot of fun stuff the last 6 years. And a big part of that was living in environments where it was totally acceptable and normal to not be working. So a lot of ski bums in Jackson Hole, and a lot of surfers in Costa Rica. And so I just really fit in really well because I was retired and doing these fun things, and kind of structured my day around the surf or the skiing or whatnot. Then we moved 8 months to Marin up here in the Bay Area, and everyone I know is working all the time. And I don't have an idea for a business I want to start right now. And so I have a lot of free time, and there's not the, access to the surf the way there was in Costa Rica. And so I don't really have something to kind of center my day around. And that has been really hard on my mental health. And it's something I'm, frankly struggling with right now and trying to figure out.
Dude, fuck yeah. Like, I mean,
I think the thing is as Tyler started the podcast with, is like definitely success, money, fame, all these things that people think that they want, they definitely don't lead to long-term happiness. They're great experiences to have in your life, and I'm super grateful for the ones that I've had, but you really can't, build a life around those. You build a life around your relationships. You build a life around having purpose. You build a life around, being involved in your community. And these are things that I'm working on establishing, here in Marin, but it's not as easy to do when you're 47 than when you're 27. And so it's taking a lot more work and a lot more time, and I'm just trying to be patient with it.
Dude, fucking smart and honest and thoughtful and powerful. I really appreciate you laying that out that clearly.
Yeah, it's a tough time right now. I mean, every day I'm trying to kind of figure it out and taking it one day at a time. But I think I really jumped to move here because my wife is from here and be close to her parents, and kind of like not unlike giving $100 million away. When the opportunity presented itself, I said, "Great, let's do it." I'm an eternal optimist and thought, okay, I'll figure out something to do up there, and it'll be great. And I really miss Costa Rica now, and that's something I have to kind of wake up with every day, saying, "Gosh, did I jump with this big move a little too fast before I really thought through what life would be like up here?" And I'm sure it'll end up great, and I'll find my way. But right now, it's definitely challenging.
It's interesting how we're all built so differently. Like, we have one friend, Donald, that would be perfectly happy living inside of a robe in a spa, and he, as long as they were bringing him like lemon water and everything, he could be happy permanently. And and then other people like you, I feel like I was just talking about this the other day. I think that something that you seem passionate about and have a deep need for is growing. And if you're not growing, it's painful. All of a sudden it becomes painful. But what you were saying is so interesting to me. It's like there's like a fear about certain things as you're looking for. It's like, in some ways, there's like a fear that can get in the way of finding the next purpose. And it's like, I think it's for so many things, if you just like look at that fear in the eye, there's probably I feel like the solution is like through that fear.
Absolutely.
That's something I kind of figure out more and more. And usually it's after a like painful lesson. Were you going to say something, Aaron?
Oh, I was going to say, are you into mountain biking? Aren't you in like the mountain bike capital of the world now?
Yeah, we are. There's a lot of great mountain biking, and I have started to do it. And I find it somewhat terrifying at times. And so I'm quite cautious when I mountain bike. But yeah, it is a lot of great mountain biking up here, a lot of great hiking.
Yeah.
You talked about starting a podcast, Blake. And I know it's like, I don't know, like, obviously it's pretty intimidating to come into this kind of production and see kind of how far we've progressed.
Oh my God. Can you imagine how intimidating? Oh my God. Seeing this group,
Seeing
fucking
this sort of
Cracker
finely
Jacks.
tuned machine.
Oh man.
But what do you want to talk about what that is? Because I think the context is interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I am considering starting a podcast that really dives into the challenges in mental health, and really the solutions and tools and strategies that, experts, therapists, practitioners, kind of give their clients to help them through a hard time, as well as I think hearing about other people who've overcome depression or a major setback in their life is really inspiring to people who are in the middle of it. I know that's been inspiring for me. And, I don't think that there's enough platforms for people to really share in that way. And so, yeah, it's something that I'm considering doing so that I can take my own kind of pain and suffering. I mean, not unlike y'all's podcast, right? Like you're getting people's painful lessons so other people don't have to have them. This would be a very similar thing in that, like, taking my pain and my suffering and try to help other people who might be in the same situation, have a path towards, true well-being.
So do you think there's a
sorry.
Do you think there's a big audience? Like, what is the scale of the mental health matter in America right now or globally? Like, how significant is
I don't know what the percentage of Americans are or people in general, but there's a massive population of people who are on antidepressants. We know that for sure.
Yeah.
It's an indicator of, our collective mental health.
I think it's now, I think maybe it's 1 in 4.
Yeah, 1 in 4, 1 in 3.
Yeah, it is. I'm kind of this. It's very exciting. Like, I, for one, am really excited for when you do this, because I think it will be of much value to people who are in the audience, and I also think it gives you an outlet for purpose and competition, because it's similar to Painful Lessons, and we've got a head start.
Do you know what is also, I think it's fascinating is that you, I also like if we, instead of saying painful lessons, they've learned them so you don't have to. What if it's just painful lessons? Because those are hilarious. Okay, wait. But anyway, you are like the book Siddhartha. Who is that? Herman Hesse, I think.
Herman Hesse.
Herman, is it Hesse?
Hesse.
Okay, so he at one point is like, he's like the royalty or something. He first is like, he's just dripping in gold, and so it's like, what it's like to go through the phase of being like, all right, is dripping in gold gonna make me happy? And you're like, it doesn't. No. And then he, I think, goes into like a brothel or something. And I want to be clear, you have not been into a brothel, but like you did go through a. I remember Ben and I going to your house one time. You're like, man, am I ever into Tantra? And they're like, all books everywhere, like Tantra. And like on the ceiling, there's like a mirror and like, so you're like, is that a good time? Like, probably it's a great time, but it isn't all that you get. And then the next thing, and like, I just feel like it's exciting to be on this journey with you. And as opposed to some douche that's like, there's so many people like, I got all the answers. Like, you're like still finding the answers.
Very much so.
Yeah, you're perfect for that.
Let's talk about Tantra. Let's move in that direction. Is it real? Does it work?
Are you better at Sting than Tantra? Do you think?
I don't remember how.
Come on. He's been like going at this since like 85.
I'm
early in my journey.
Sting probably could throw down at Tantra. Like, if you're gonna experience someone teaching Tantra, I mean, listen, Blake is an exciting partner, but Sting is pretty. I mean, especially like young Sting when he was in like Dune. I mean, that was a handsome guy, and just man, that guy. Not only is he a handsome guy, but can just go all day long.
it's cool
That's
if
an
you kind of
exciting ride.
fly your free flag out there a little bit, because I feel like in our culture, like if you don't fly your free flag, and then like it is like kind of it comes out that you're kind of into some freaky stuff, it's like, oh goodness. But if you come out like Sting and you're like, hey, that's my scene, then
Yeah.
everyone's like, wow, hey man, cool path.
Go for it. Yeah.
Let me learn about it. All right.
You've always flown your freak flag. I think that's one of the more like wonderful qualities that you have. And in some ways it's also very what's called contagious. So and I think that it's like I feel it's like you could talk all day about like I have this lesson, I have this lesson. But one thing that you probably never think about is that by being around you, it kind of encourages other people to at least enjoy being themselves. Like Ben and I were just talking about with our wonderful guest, Tree Hemingway, what lessons that we want to give our kids. And like for me, one of the top lessons is that I want both of my kids to really enjoy who they are, and not let the distraction of who they might not be that they like in someone else or something like that get into it. It's like, but like to enjoy and then own who you are. And I think that's like a huge step towards anyone having a chance at being happy. And that's like one thing that I think that you do that I don't even think that you probably give yourself credit for, is that that part of you is very contagious.
Thank you, Tyler. No, I think we are who we are. And one way not to be happy is to not just be authentic of who you are and where you are. You know, like right now, I'm going through a hard time, and it would be much harder if I tried to pretend I wasn't.
Yeah, we'd know.
Fuck yeah.
No. He's actually so weird. He's pretending he's not. It's so weird. Hey, but also it was really terrible that Ben ripped my necklace that one time. And let's close with that. Thank you.
Blake, thanks for coming on. Tyler, you're phenomenal. And love you guys.
Okay.
Peace. This is part 1 of 10, by the way.
Part 1 of 10.
A 10-part interview.
Every week on the week.
Bye.